Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Welcome to the Networking RX podcast. I'm your host, Frank Agan, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections. Today I have another guest. As our ongoing subscribers know, often on this podcast, I will be sharing ideas and insights, best practices for building professional relationships and excelling at business networking. Occasionally, however, I will be interviewing subject matter experts. These are authors, speakers, thought leaders, social scientists. These people come on, they share their knowledge and help supplement the things I talk about. So today I have another expert, Jennifer Aliyah. Jennifer is a digital marketing strategist, that's easy for me to say. And she's a mentor with a passion for helping businesses get visible without paying for ads or sending spammy messages. Interesting fun fact, she lives on a homestead on the northern prairie of South Dakota with her family and a menagerie of animals. What's a menagerie? I know what a menagerie is, but what are the animals you have in your menagerie?
Okay, so now I'm going to try ducks, chickens, silkies, geese, quail, goats, cats, pigs, and dogs. Oh, and
Wow.
rabbits.
Okay.
We have about 100 different individual animals on the farm.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It is. It's a lot of work, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I was going to say, don't worry if you miss an animal. It's not like I'm missing a kid, right?
Yes.
Nobody knows. They're not going to be listening. They're not going to hold it against you one day. This is a podcast about relationships and obviously LinkedIn. Well, shout out to Sajad because we were just talking before we hit record, but he had a post on there. You said you hadn't seen it yet, but his post, and it's always hard to understand which direction he's going. That's just Sajad, if you know him. But his thing was, do metrics matter? It's just a vanity sort of thing. And the point I got from what he was saying is, well, it really doesn't matter. What matters are the relationships. What are you getting from these things? Mm-hmm. If all you're looking for is 1,000 likes and that's all you ever get,
yes.
What have you got? I've yet to find a landlord that takes likes to pay rent, right? I mean, it's just that, and it really comes down to the relationships that we have in anything, but certainly on LinkedIn, and that's kind of your specialty. So I guess I want to kind of use that as a jumping off point for, the things you work with your clients with respect to, this, I'm sure people come to you, and I will stop talking at some point. I'm sure people come to you and say, hey, I need to increase my engagement. Mm-hmm. And you say,
well, actually, usually what they do is they come to me and they say, I want to get more out of it, or I'm frustrated and I'm tired of doing it because I'm on LinkedIn, on Facebook, I'm posting every day on Instagram. It's doing nothing for me. And what I usually say to them is that being on those platforms doesn't make you money. Like there is no LinkedIn post that is suddenly going to fill your bank account. It's not the post that's making you money. That's where the relationships come in, because there's a difference between posting. Anyone can post, really. Like there's kids with social media accounts, right? There's people that can make a post look really beautiful, but it doesn't have any value really. And it doesn't educate people. It doesn't elicit engagement. And so you're putting a lot of effort to put something out there and you're not getting anything back because you're looking at it from the wrong perspective. So one of the things I say a lot is that social media isn't a billboard, it's a conversation. And we oftentimes think it's about getting that post up, right? Let's make it look nice. Not that making it look nice is wrong. but we spend a lot of time on our graphics or whatever. And we think, I'm going to put this post out there and everybody's going to want this product, or everybody's going to come rushing to my webinar or whatever. But if you haven't built a relationship with people, they're not going to, because first of all, they're probably not even going to see the post. And if they do, it's just something that's slapped in front of their face and they have no reason to respond. So, I usually tell people when they're struggling with this, think about if you had this post about you won this award or you're hosting this webinar or whatever, and you walked into a room of people, friends, family, colleagues, how would you tell them about it? Would you just go in there and hold up the poster and say, hey, I'm doing this, buy a ticket, and walk out? No, because they might look at you, and then when you left, they'd keep talking and nothing would happen with it, right? You would go in there and start a conversation and have them ask questions. And it's the same thing on social media, is that you need to be building relationships and sharing things that people actually want to comment on. And I know you post very frequently, Frank, and you post thought-provoking things, or you share little insights or lessons. And people want to comment because they want to have a conversation about it. If it's not something people want to comment on, or you wouldn't want to comment on, then why would they? And so then you're just wasting effort.
No, I think that's a great point. I have said that since when I say the beginning of time, since the beginning of social media, right? Yeah. Which is, you wouldn't walk into a chamber event, a networking event, and say, hey, buy from me. Whatever it is, right? You just wouldn't do it. It would be so, it would be so random, and people would they would be shocked, and some would laugh, but nobody would buy. You just wouldn't do it. So why do we think that this is any different?
Yes.
I don't get it.
And there's no product that sells itself. No matter, I don't care. There's no product or service on the planet that sells itself. That's some marketing technique to get you to buy into selling what it is. People buy solutions from people they trust, and the solutions are something that's going to change their life. So they're not really buying that vacuum or that copywriting package or the coaching, program and what you're going to learn. They're buying what's going to happen on the end of that and what's going to change their life. And so that vacuum, you might say, well, I'm a vacuum maker, I don't change the world. But you do, because if you've ever had a vacuum that doesn't work and you have a house full of kids and dogs, you know that when you get that vacuum, it's changing your world, right? Because now you can finally have clean floors. And if it works really well and it lasts a long time, you're going to tell everybody you know about that vacuum. So it is a life-changing thing. Maybe not on a big scale, but think about if that vacuum works 5 times better than the other vacuums on the market. And so that busy mom or that busy business owner is saving time that they can use someplace else. I mean, we don't often think of the ripples that way, but that's the way we need to approach it, because the people that are buying it, that's why they're buying it. They don't really want a coach, really. I mean, they want a better business. They want a better life. They want more sales. That's why they're buying into you. It has nothing to do with you, and it has nothing really to do with your program. It's the results that you can get.
I like that. People buy solutions from someone they trust. I mean, and if we really stop and think about it, it is true. We all kind of need insurance. Well, if you're going to drive a car in most states, you have to have insurance.
Yes.
It's the law. Wasn't always, but it pretty much is now. And so you have to have insurance. Well, who do you get insurance from?
Yes.
I like to use somebody I trust.
Yes.
As you're talking about the vacuum example, I'm thinking of my wife, and I know it's very sexist, but for me, I just would, at $30 vacuum, what do I care, right? But for her, it's like, I want the cordless, and I want this one because it will go under the couch, and it's like, well, it's not dirty under the couch. That's my logic. I'm a guy, but for her, it's different, and a lot of it's it's peace of mind. It's getting it done fast. And that, what sort of pushback do you get from people on these things? Or I mean, I don't know. No product sells itself. No consultant coach type doesn't get pushback from clients. Let me put it that way, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure there are.
Yeah. There's plenty of pushback. Well, the one thing that people generally tell me is, well, I can hire a girl to do this for $150 a month, right? Or I have a system that works. I just need you to run it. And what I say to them is, if it works, then why did you come to me, right? And there are
Right.
some people that won't change their ways. There was one client I actually had to fire. I don't generally do that. I try to come to a peaceable agreement and see how we can work together. But she was adamant. She knew how to do it and she wanted it done her way, and then kept complaining, it's not working. You're supposed to be the expert. I said, you're not letting me do what I'm supposed to be doing. And the person you're paying $150 to, yes, they can get a post up. This goes back to, they can get a post up. They can put it into a bunch of groups. They can make you look pretty, but they're really basically just showing up at a networking event, like you said, throwing out your cards into like
Right.
the air, hoping somebody grabs it and running away. You would never want, if you were hiring a sales team, that's not how you would want them to sell you, right? You wouldn't want them to just blanket the city with flyers and hope somebody picked it up and calls you. But that's basically what they're doing. So there are people that say, well, it's a waste of time. People are just going to buy if they're going to buy. I don't need to build a relationship. I really don't care. Well, that can be how you run your business, and that's fine. You can choose to run your business any way that you want, because it's still a free country in most places. And so run your business how you want. But you could get results. It's like the people that do 1,000 cold calls a day and just spam you with stuff, and the robocalls. They're getting somebody to buy, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But think of how many hours they're putting in. And is that a company that you're not going to say, well, you know what, that person called me and gave me that, spammy call. Let me call them back because I really need their service. There never is someone that you're going to go back to. So it's like in the early days of websites when people would, have like the A before the name, or they hide words in there that they knew people would search for just so they ranked at the top, but they had nothing to offer. They just wanted to be the top ranking website. So maybe someone, you do get people to click, and maybe someone somewhere decides to buy, but you're putting all this effort into something that doesn't lead anywhere. It goes back to those vanity numbers. So you had 1 million people come to your website. They never came back because they got there, they realized it was spam, and they never came back to it. Mm-hmm. So in the end, you can get numbers and you can feel good about it and say, well, I'm happy with what I have, but you're really not. That's why you came to me in the first place. You're frustrated. But also, if you don't have that relationship going, if you aren't setting yourself up that people think of you and think of you positively, then you're not going to get those repeat customers. You're not going to be the one that people think of when they get into a bind and need your solution. And really, in the long run, that's better marketing than anything that you could pay for. Like ads will never, no matter how much your ad spend is, no matter what big name marketer you have, the way you serve your people and the way your people talk to others is always going to be the best marketing that you have. So even in a digital age, we're still building these interpersonal relationships. And I think many people have forgotten that because we're on the back of a screen. And so we think it's just numbers, but they're not numbers. They're still people.
Well, it's, somebody remarked to me, maybe it was on another podcast or something. I can't keep track of everything. Something I read, but their comment was, there is cold calls, but there's no cold sales. Meaning ultimately we have to have this relationship. Mm-hmm. And I get people reaching out to me on LinkedIn, and I always want to push it to a phone call or a Zoom, mm-hmm. some sort of interaction. Mm-hmm. Obviously you're in South Dakota, I'm in Ohio. And we're able to have this relationship. Mm-hmm. But I always try to push towards this, mm-hmm. whether I'm selling or buying, just, it gets back to what you said, I need solutions. I need solutions for lots of things, but I want to deal with people I can trust. And, and the other comment I had here, the $150 a month person, they're not thinking, no. Right? they're not, and thinking is the hardest part of really anything, because they're the person who are going to be using your example, your analogy at the event, just throwing cards out. Well, if you're an insurance person and they're throwing cards at another insurance person, they're kind of a waste, whereas with somebody like you who's doing the thinking, you're going to say, okay, we're going to kind of make this so we don't hit this, or maybe it's, we're going to try and aim this direction so we're not hitting people who probably don't really care or might care for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and really what people are focusing on often is the surface level of the marketing. And like I said, you can get a post out and you can do Instagram, and maybe you could even get 1,000 likes. But there's a difference between using social media and actually marketing your business. And so if what you're putting out there isn't driving people in a certain way, or just getting them to think about, oh, well, I never thought that really that is something that is missing in my life, because everybody's here at the surface, right? They're anxious about something. They're frustrated with something. They feel like something's missing. 9 times out of 10, they don't know what it is. So if you can't be that person that provides that information, then they're never going to figure it out. So they don't know to hire you, because they're just up here in the frustration, and they could be frustrated and angry about a whole bunch of things. And you can maybe only solve one of them, but until they figure out what that one thing is, then they're never going to know that they need the help. And I actually did a post about this recently, that most people who need you don't realize they have a problem. They may realize something's wrong. They may not be getting the results they want. They don't realize either that they have a problem or what the problem is. They might just be thinking, well, it's a slow month, and there are slow months, or it's an algorithm change and there are algorithm changes. But really, in the end, that's not what's affecting the end result. There's something deeper in the foundation. And when you keep people at the surface of just emotional, which every sale is an emotional sale, but if you're just playing on people's emotions, first of all, that's a turnoff at some point, right? Because they don't want more anxiety. They already have it. But also there's a million other people doing what you do. And so how do you differentiate yourself? How do you pull people into your circle? I've had some people say, well, I need to find a niche that nobody's in. That doesn't exist.
Right.
There isn't a niche that nobody's in. There might be something that's very specialized and you do it a completely different way.
Or it's underserved.
Or it's underserved.
Right.
Yes. But it still exists somewhere.
Yeah.
And so, this comes to Mike Verrett, which I know we're both friends with. He always says you can be first, best, or different.
Yeah.
Really, none of us are going to be first unless we find a way to get a car that goes to Mars or something. But even, I think Elon Musk is already on that. But so we have to be different, because even though everyone's serving this, there's so many networks, right? There's different networks you can do, but the way you run your network is different than the way other people run their network. And the people that you serve need the way that you're doing it. And so that's why they come to you. But you need to tell them that. And people get stuck in the scarcity mindset about, I can't tell them what I'm doing because then somebody will steal it. And this, going back to Sajad, he just did a post on that too, about, I'm going to give it all away. Right. And I think he tagged you in that. I'm going to give it all away.
He tags me in everything.
Yeah. Well, he likes you. But so there, you don't want to be the one, because I came from like a homeschooling background. That was a business I had several years ago, still content marketing, and so in the homeschool world, it's like, well, just give them everything. And then when you need money, like, ask. And that doesn't work, right? Because you're just giving them free curriculum and you're giving them free this and that and the other. And then when you ask, they're like, well, I'm just going to wait till you give it to me for free.
Right.
So that's the wrong mindset. But at the same time, sharing your value and sharing your expertise is the best thing that you can do. If you're going to spend time on anything online, that's what you should be doing. Don't invest in fancy graphics or highly edited videos if you have no value to share other than, this is my product, buy it here. You're wasting your time and your money.
Well, I mean, I think the analogy is the movies. There are movies out there that just spend all their money on special effects and the story's horrible.
Yes.
I would love to watch a movie that is black and white if there's just a compelling story that just kind of takes you through the range of emotions and has that just great ending to it that kind of want to make you cry with no special effects, as opposed to the ones out there that's all the glitz, and it's kind of the same thing you see on social media. You know, people wow, that's neat. It's neat to kind of see it once, but
you don't watch it again. It's not the video that you're pulling out every month, you know, when you have a little time, let me rewatch this movie. No, you watch it once and you're done, and you don't tell anybody else to go watch it.
Yeah. Well, shifting gears here to kind of wrap up, let's talk about your business.
Okay.
Enough about everybody else. Talk about your business and you know, who you work with, who you're looking to work with. I know you're trying to get on podcasts, and I think that's great. You have a important message. So I'll shut up.
Yes. Okay. So what I do is a little bit different than what most people are doing in the social media space, because even though that's where I'm visible and that's where I start, that's not really what I'm working on. I'm working on the stuff behind it, and looking at how people are showing up and how their message is going to people, because we talk about what we're doing as experts and we know what people need, I guess, but we don't necessarily understand what they want or how to communicate that to them. And so we need to get down to their level and make sure that we're connecting with them on a human level. So what I do is I go in and work with businesses that have that online presence, that are putting a lot of effort into it, but want to scale and aren't sure how to do it. And usually they say, well, I think I need ads. You don't need ads until you have your organic marketing going really well. I can tell you that. But so I go in and I look at all the ways that they're showing up and how it's resonating with their audience. And I can tell that by how many followers are actually commenting or interacting, or, you know, how their messages are going out there. I read their emails and everything, and help them build that foundation of going back. It's like, who do you work with? You know, and sometimes they'll say, well, I can work with everybody. And it's like, that's always the wrong answer. So we go back and we build the foundation of, this is how you market on whatever channel you're using. And generally it's LinkedIn. That's where my happy home is. So that at the end, they have people flowing through their marketing funnel, and it's not just collecting people on LinkedIn. So that's really how I serve. And it's somewhat of a mission of mine, because I know that there's companies out there and businesses and coaches that have amazing programs, that have great messages, that have things that the world needs to learn. And they've been misled on a lot of digital marketing things, and it's not getting out there. So I want to help them get it out there and build that legacy for them. I also work with sales teams, because they're great at sales, but they don't usually know how to market to get the sale, because again, you need to build that relationship before the sale comes. And their companies don't always support them in that, you know. So I go in and do trainings, like group trainings or live trainings with them, to help them learn how to build a presence on LinkedIn and a personal branding.
Best way to get a hold of you?
Best way to get a hold of me is on LinkedIn. It's linkedin.com/Jennifer and Aaliyah.
I'll put that in the show notes.
Okay.
Nobody's going to remember all that.
Yes.
And most people are driving anyways, but it'll be in the show notes.
Or my landing page specifically for LinkedIn is scaleMyBusiness on LinkedIn.com. So you can find me there as well.
Okay. No, this is great. I really appreciate your time. It's people, you know, people talk about relationships or think about relationships. They think about, you know, the face-to-face, and they think that LinkedIn is just something that you post on, and that's it, and magic happens, and it doesn't.
It doesn't. No.
So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today, and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.